This is Upesh Jain, founder and host of the Exec Talk channel here with Dilip Saraf, LinkedIn's top career coach. In this series, Discuss with Dilip, we talk about a variety of topics that will benefit you in your professional and personal life. The topic today is how to accelerate career growth. Now, Dilip, a lot of people feel stuck in their career. This might be due to various reasons. Uh, in your opinion, how do people define career growth? As it might mean different things to different people. So, some people might be motivated by titles, some by money, some by power. So how do you define career growth?
Okay, all of those, it's a very good question. All of those are valid vectors, if you want to call it that, for career growth. But in my view, the real definition of career growth is when you are growing yourself with the skill set you have and your leadership force, I call it, and some companies call it blast radius. That's somewhat of a interesting term. And also the influence you are able to create in the ecosystem in which you play. And so my personal definition of career growth would be if you're able to achieve that,
Mm-hmm.
higher blast radius, bigger influence in your ecosystem, and as a outgrowth of that,
Mm-hmm.
higher influence, higher title, and more responsibility, all of that comes with bigger pay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much better for me to talk about growing in that direction than to say, I want more money, I want a bigger title, because titles come and go and salaries come and go, and all of that happens as we are seeing now in this downturn.
Mm-hmm.
But when you embrace the vector of responsibility, growth, and influence,
Mm-hmm.
how much influence you have in the field in which you play, then that stays with you no matter what your title is, what your salary is. And that's what I call your leadership force, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my advice to my clients is
Mm-hmm.
always focus on that your growth, your responsibility, your influence across the ecosystem in which you work is basically the more of an important driving factor than a higher title or a bigger pay, because that usually follows. And if the company where you are currently is not willing to accommodate that,
Mm-hmm.
so they give you more responsibility and say, gosh, you have now team of 20 instead of the 10 that you had before,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing changes. Your title is the same, salary is the same. Then you need to assume that responsibility and get out at the higher title, exit the company. Because on the resume, you say double the team size in 6 months to 20. And now you're probably likely to land a director level role
Mm-hmm.
as a result of that. So you need to be somewhat open to taking on something that can happen without the commensurate increase in title, pay, or whatever, but then use that as a leverage to get out with some what I call escape velocity. And
I
escape
see.
velocity is the term that they use when you want to get out of an orbit of Earth, for example. And if you have the right escape velocity, you can get out of the orbit of the Earth, right? I mean, so that's metaphorically, that's how I see it. And that's what I've done with many of my clients, that they
Mm-hmm.
felt stuck. And I said, if your promotion is not likely, he's a director reporting to a director,
Mm-hmm.
or she's a senior director reporting to a senior director. So there is no headroom for her,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
I said, why don't you propose something that looks like a VP level responsibility and say that I want to take on this project. I want to show you how to improve customer experience. And I can do that in my time that's available without compromising my current role or responsibility. But I want to show you how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to do that, then that's your first line on your resume, first page that said that says that with my own initiative took on the responsibility to improve customer experience And here are three things I did with the existing team. And we moved NPS from 60 to 85, right? And no, that probably looks more like somebody who could be a vice president if you want to kind of take that message out and campaign into the open market. So I think there are a lot of possibilities. What I find people get hung up on is if they are not doing very well at, let's say, director level, and they have been there for 4 years, and their boss is a senior director, so there is no headroom really. And they keep saying, when I'm promoted, when I'm getting promoted, and so forth. And that is, your boss can promise you, he can't control, right? What he can control. So you can only work on what you can control. And what you can control is how you initiate new things, even though that's not part of your job. How do you take charge of something that has gone wrong, that nobody's willing to take responsibility? And you say, that's something I would like to do and straighten it out, right?
Right.
And then demonstrate and deliver the results. And even if none of that translates into a better role for you in the current company, you can certainly parlay that in your resume with the message, the right story, and go into the open market and develop that escape velocity, as I keep saying.
I see. So that was a lot. Let me interpret that and put my spin on it. So it looks like it starts with sharpening the saw, right?
Yeah.
Your skill set, and then assuming more responsibility,
Right.
which could include new areas, new ideas that you're willing to take on, new responsibility, or fixing something that's broken.
Right.
And then once you demonstrate results, that gives upper management the trust that you can do it. And then all the other things come as a result of, as a byproduct, basically.
That's correct. And I just want to make it clear.
Yeah.
You said sharpening your saw and develop new skills. And in my view, a lot of the times, the sharpening of the skills and developing new skills happens when you take certain risk and do something even when you don't know how to do it. And I have done that throughout my career. In other words, don't read a book and say, now I can do this or C++ or whatever, right? Just jump in and say, because you're not assigned that project, you're taking it on.
Yeah, jump in the deep end.
Pardon me?
Jump into the deep
jump in, and nobody can say you screwed it up because it was not yours to begin with.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the simple rule I say to clients or anybody who comes to me is take some risk every single day in your work life. Small risks, but take every day some risk. Do something new, show something new, fail somewhere new, right? And that's the growth path that I think most likely to be productive.
Get out of your comfort zone and don't be complacent.
Right.
So can you give any examples of clients anonymous who you helped do this, accelerate their career growth? There could be diverse examples.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can give several. But let me give you one that's fairly recent. This client came to me. She was just first level QA manager at a very large software company. And she called me about 10 years ago. And she said, I don't see a growth path here. QA is kind of a fading field. I don't want to stay in QA, but I can see myself doing a C-level role. How can you help me? So the first thing we did was to get her out of that company and get into, I'll give you the name of the company, Salesforce. And she landed as a QA manager at Salesforce. And we said, now we need to, QA was different compared to where she was at Salesforce. So we took that and converted her into an engineering role very quickly within like less than a year. And when she got into engineering, she became director of engineering. Then she became senior director. Then she became VP. Then she became an SVP of engineering, all within about 7 years.
Wow.
Right? And now she's president and chief product officer of a $2 billion business at a major $20 billion company.
Nice.
And that's within 10 years. So, and she's not even 40. So that's one example, but I cannot take any credit other than showing her where her blocks were and where her barriers were and where she could take risks that would play out for her, that would be worth taking.
Mm-hmm.
And she would paint out a scenario. So this is what is happening. This SVP has left, that SVP has now taken over, but he is not a good leader, this, that. So she would paint the scenario for me. And I said, your penetration point is this organization because how you describe the leadership there. And then she would make a proposal and say, here is where I think we are weak. We need to shore up our leadership and this and that. And management said, yeah, if you can show us how to do it, it's yours. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's taking risks. It's having some foresight. It's having some openness to approach people and having the ability to communicate well.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Do you have like a framework, or are there any kind of high-level steps that you should keep in mind when approaching this problem? Or
the problem being how to accelerate your growth path.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here are a few things that I have codified, I think, over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 4 things that I find to be central
Mm-hmm.
to succeeding in taking on greater responsibility, higher risks, and bigger roles. The first one, absolutely, is that you have to be the go-to person in the space in which you operate. For example, if you are a software development manager, you have to not only know the technology of what you work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be also a good manager and a good leader. So that's the first thing. And as you move up in your stature, you should never forgo your technology skill.
Mm-hmm.
By that, I don't mean ability to code well, do great runtime and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
To have conceptual skill that allows you to quickly grasp what the topic is and guide your team through leadership barriers, leadership crises. So you don't have to know how to code, but you have to know what the problem is and ask the right question to get them to solve it. You don't have to solve it. You have to ask the right question. So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Expertise in your field of endeavor, whatever that is, including leadership. Mm-hmm. The second one, which is equally important, is learning how to tell your story, mm-hmm. which means most people will write their resume with a bullet that says, increase productivity 15%. That's their bullet. Mm-hmm. And to me, if you can tell a story around how you did that in 3 lines, 2 or 3 lines in a resume, that's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
And so I call that a compilation of these kinds of stories, your leadership narrative. So how do you develop that leadership narrative? That's the second item. Mm-hmm. The third item is keeping up with the upper management in a way that they see you favorably. In other words, make yourself visible, mm-hmm. show you taking risk, show that you have the interest of the customer, and make that visible to higher upper levels, not just to your boss. Mm-hmm. Get in front of 2, 3 skip levels and make a presentation and make an impact and work all day, all night until that presentation mm-hmm. is something that can never fail delivering. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I keep saying, don't practice something you get it right. Practice mm-hmm. until you never get it wrong, mm-hmm. which is a different mindset.
Right.
So that's the third thing. Mm-hmm. And the fourth thing is you have to be open to taking risks. And as I said to you before, take some risk every single day, build your immunity to risk taking, mm-hmm. and then you take bigger and bigger risks. Those 4 things I never fail my clients.
Nice. Yeah, very well put. So great, Dilip. We talked about how to accelerate your career growth, a topic that is near and dear to almost everybody who's working in the real world. And so appreciate your insight into this. And hopefully this will be really beneficial for my viewers.
Thank you. Some very good questions.
And we'll come up with a new topic next time.
All right.